Welcome back to the channel. This is a More Better Ascend coming at you with one of the least budget deck types of all time. We're talking about Slivers. Now, Slivers are one of the most powerful tribes in Magic the Gathering. For whatever reason, they stopped printing Slivers. I'm waiting for them to make their comeback. But until then, we still have a ton of old Sliver cards that you can put together and make yourself a sick deck. Now, it's going to cost you a pretty penny unless you do some proxying or something like that, but let's hop into this version of the Sliver deck and talk about the strategies, the synergies, and how you're going to win. Now, if you look at this deck, it's majority Naya colors, which is red, green, and white, and then a splash of blue and black to get the 5 colored creatures that we have over on this side. I just found that the Slivers that I selected for these colors were more powerful than just randomly throwing in a random blue creature, because then, you know, you're going to run into problems with getting mana screwed or something of that nature. So I opted with these 3 colors and then having in the splash to get to the big boys at the end. So let's start at the beginning. Now, the coolest thing about Slivers is that almost every single card is like a Lord. So each Sliver gives other Slivers abilities, and those abilities stack. So the more variety of Slivers that you have out on the battlefield, then the more powerful each of your other Slivers get. It's like a hive. First up, we have the Striking Sliver. This is a 1 mana 1/1, and it says Slivers you control have first strike. So now, turn 1, you get this guy out there. Now, every single Sliver that you cast beyond this is going to have first strike, which is absolutely insane for blocking and attacking. Next up, we have the Predatory Sliver, and now this is just a straight up Lord. Slivers you control get +1/+1. So, you know, we're definitely going to have 4 of these in the deck just so that we can just constantly buff our creatures and keep getting them bigger and bigger. And like I said, bigger and with first strike. Next up, definitely one of the best ones, Cloud Shredder Sliver, a red and white 1/1. Slivers you control have flying, and the best part, haste. So flying, you're going to be able to get in over the top, get through their creatures, and then you're also going to be able to attack as soon as you drop any other Sliver. Sentinel Sliver, another great one for 2 mana. It's a 2 mana 2/2, and your Slivers are all going to have vigilance. So that means you're going to have haste, you're going to have first strike, you're going to be boosted, you're going to have flying, you're going to be able to just swing in and then not have to worry about any kind of crackback with the vigilance. So as you can see with all the Slivers that I've been selecting, that they all have a specific role and a specific keyword that I'm looking for in building the best possible Sliver deck. You have the Gemhide Sliver, which is a nice ramp spell where all of your Slivers are going to be able to tap for mana. So that means tons of ramping of any color, and you're just going to constantly be pumping out more and more Slivers, just emptying your hand. Then we have the Venom Sliver, and now all your Slivers have Death Touch. So you could have first strike and Death Touch. So now all of your Slivers are just going to be like instant glissas, and that makes, and if they have flying too, your defense is impenetrable. Then we have the Sinew Sliver, which is another Lord, exactly like the Predatory Sliver, but just in white. So now we have 8 creatures in this deck that can give our creatures +1/+1. So it's just going to be lords upon lords upon lords. So expect to have very big Sliver creatures. And this says all Sliver creatures. And this one says Sliver creatures also. So it gives itself a boost. So this is a 2/2 and this is a 2/2. Rather than most other lords that give other goblins or other elves +1/+1. Then we have the Mana Weft Sliver, which is just another, exactly like the Gemhide, where it gives your Slivers the ability to tap for any color of mana. just to add some more ramp. And then we have Bone Slice Sliver, which gives your Slivers double strike. Who doesn't like double strike? We got one Sliver Hive Lord. This is a 5-color 5/5 that Sliver creatures you control have indestructible. So this is nice to have. It's a, you know, it's not a something that you need, but it's a nice to have. That's why there's only one of them in here. Now the next one, that's a little different. This one you need to have. This is a 5 mana, 5-color, 7/7. That when it gets casted, it has Cascade. And then all Sliver spells that you cast after that will have Cascade. So that means, let's say you cast a first Sliver. You're going to draw from the top of your... You're going to exile cards from the top of your deck until you reach a non-land card that costs less than this creature. And then you're going to put that into play. And then you're going to do it again. And then you're going to do it again. Until you get back down to 1 mana. So you're going to be putting tons and tons of Slivers in play for free just by having this guy out there. And then the last one, a nice little 2 of, is the Sliver Legion, where all Slivers get +1/+1 for each other Sliver on the battlefield. So that's where it really gets out of hand if you can get one of these out in the battlefield as well. You have 5 Slivers on the battlefield. They're all going to get +4/+4. So you're already going to have crazy, crazy creatures. The only other thing that I'm missing is Trample. I kind of would like to have Trample be an ability that these creatures have, but I think that creature that we're talking about costs a little too much mana-wise. I'll have to look into that. But this is the deck so far. $430, which is insane. I do not own this in paper. I've only built this deck. You can see the colors over here. All over the place just because this is a 5-color deck, but the blue and the black are very small just because it's only on these creatures right here. Let's take a look at the mana base. 22 lands, and then you're going to notice that we don't have any colored lands other than 1 forest and 1 mountain, just because the two of the biggest colors are green and red, and our 1 drop is red. So that's why I put the mountain in there. Otherwise, we have Ancient Ziggurat, which will tap for any color of mana as long as it's a creature spell, and our entire deck is creature spells. We have Reflecting Pool, which will copy whatever color that another land could produce. We have Secluded Courtyard, which is a type, tribal deck, tribal land. We have Sliver Hive, which will add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool as long as you're casting a Sliver spell, which obviously we will be. And then in the end, if you are really low on cards to play and you have nothing else to do, you can pay 5 and tap this and create a 1/1 colorless Sliver creature token. And that Sliver creature token will get all of the things that we were saying before, like +1/+1, indestructible, cascade, vigilance, flying, double strike, everything on a 1/1. So that 5 mana that you're going to be spending on this 1/1 really is worth it. And an Unclaimed Territory, which is the same exact thing as Secluded Courtyard, which is you just pick a creature type and you can tap for any color. So you're not going to run into problems with the mana base. I remember I was saying that before about the blue creatures. I just didn't really find any that were really worth putting in that I couldn't replace with something else. The only thing that I'm really looking into replacing would be either the Gem Hides or the Mana Weft, but I kind of want those in there to ramp us as fast as possible into getting into one of these. These big guys right here, if you can get a Mana Weft out on the battlefield and you can, or 2, and you can get this out on turn 4 or earlier, it's definitely worth it. These things are just going to change the entire game for sure and flood your board with creatures. The only thing that this really has a problem with would be board wipes for sure. The only thing that you could really do to combat that is put more Sliver Hive Lords in here, because if you do that, then all of them will have indestructible, and the only way they could really get rid of them is with a Sunfall to exile them. But other than that, so that's the deck. I thought when the first time I ever saw a sliver when I was, you know, really little, back in like the year, I don't even know what year that was, maybe the year 2000. Um, I saw slivers and thought that they were the coolest creature of all time, and I was like, I want to build a sliver deck, and I just couldn't find any cards that I could put together to make a deck. My deck making abilities were not very good back then, but this is the deck now. I probably won't be building this in paper anytime soon, just because of the fact that it is very, very expensive, which is crazy because it's not all the creatures. You could make this deck if you want to make this deck without the Hive Lord, without the first Sliver, and without the Sliver Legion. This is without the Sliver Hive. You could replace that with another type of land that can tap for anything, like a Cavern of Souls or whatever. This isn't a very expensive deck. Like, there's not very many cards. Like, you could put the Hive Lord in there because it's only $4, but these being $44 for the first Sliver and this being $50 for the Sliver Legion, that really ramps up your price. Like, this is $80 right here. This is $100 right here. So you're at $180, and then you got another $44 times 4. Like, that's where the price is really going up. But if you look at some of these other ones, 31 cents, 40 cents, 37 cents, 35 cents, this could be a cheap deck. Like, you could do this for very, very cheap, but it will be competitive, but it wouldn't be as competitive as if you had some of these guys in there. So I'm more better Ascend. If you like this deck, like, comment, subscribe, do all the algorithm things. Leave a comment down below of what you would put into this deck differently. I'm just looking for any kind of recommendations on how to make the best Sliver deck of all time. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know and put that down in the comments. But until then, we'll catch you tomorrow for another deck.